Welcome back to a bevy of bloods for round 20 of the 2023 season. Swans Super fan Sam joins me as we hold back the tears, try to talk about the game, all about our close win against the Bombers that keeps our finals intact. So fluff up your tail feathers and settle in for a potentially biased yarn about all things to do with our beloved bloods.
Swans!
G'day there, Cygnets and Swanlings. As always, my name is Chris and I'm joined by the correspondent Sam. Swam? Sam, welcome back, mate. How you doing?
My name should be Swam. Thanks, Chris. Thank you for having me.
Easy, mate. Look, just before we kick off, as always, please, if you like what we do, make sure you like and all that kind of fun stuff. It does make a difference. Find us, like us, give us a rating. It does make a big change to what we do, and we do see that, and it's making a big difference. So thank you all that have already. Now, I get stuck into the game details. Last Saturday night, our Sydney Swans defeated the Bombers by two points, with a final score of 15-9-99 to 15-11. 101. So, Sammy boy, what do you say about that close win?
Well, look, we played some really good footy. I think that our efficiency was great and our pressure was great. I'm going to jump in that a little bit later, but I think we were very lucky to hang on, and we really need to start winning some inside ball, but also we need to learn how to stop teams from getting on massive runs because it is something that is really costing us.
100%, mate. Look, I agree. We didn't look that sharp, really, did we? To really polish it off. They played to our strengths, which we'll get to in a little bit in the good, bad stats. And ultimately, I agree with you. Like we are really lucky to win this one. We won this one by 2 behinds. The same thing happened against the Bulldogs. We won by 2 behinds in the whole game. So not really giving me the best feeling when we get close to when we get close. We've already lost 4 different leads. If you include the Cats as well, that's 5. So it's 5 games we've lost in the fourth quarter. So this could have been one, but thankfully it didn't happen. So let's keep that going, mate. Look, the good, the bad, and the stats. What do you have there, Sammy?
So what I'm really happy with, and this is something I think I speak about whenever I do the halftime report, is our efficiency. So 57% inside 50 efficiency to 38. So that shows that, we are being efficient with the ball, but also our defense is doing well to stop their ball movement. So 57% scoring accuracy. And it was 66, well, it was really, if you round up, 67 at 3/4 time. So, we dropped 10% in the last quarter, which is frustrating, but it does show that I guess we are being more efficient, which is what I think was costing us a lot earlier in the season. Also 79% disposal efficiency, which was 6% more than Essendon, and winning the disposals, uncontested marks, and the tackles. So that shows, I guess, our game plan is to get it on the outside through pressure, through the tackles, and just play this uncontested, high disposal efficiency game. So look, it works to an extent, but at the same time, we got smashed in the inside 50s. We conceded 59 inside 50s to I think it was 42 for some reason. Maybe it was 52 actually. Hang on, I need to check this. And then also, so 47, sorry. Also minus 13 in the clearances and minus 23 in contested possessions. So it just shows what's happening when the opposition's winning it on the inside through clearances into contested possessions. They're getting an inside 50 more, and we've got to defend more. And it puts our defense under pressure. We got absolutely crushed in the ruck. McLean and Amadi, good on them. They're not bona fide ruckmen, but in all fairness, we were playing against Nick Bryan, who looked good, but he hasn't played many games, and Andrew Phillips, who, with all due respect, has been a second-rate ruckman, and they flogged us. So, not great there either.
Yeah, look, on that point, bang on, mate. 52 hit-outs to 18. That's minus 34. when you're minus 34, the fact that we're only minus 13 in clearances is pretty surprising. They were, look, just generally, they were just tougher in the mids. They got lit up for being weak against the Cats, and you knew that they were going to come back with something. And those inside lads, they went super hard. They were tough. And it just made our guys, to be honest with you, look a little bit soft. They didn't look quite, Parker didn't quite have that game where, you notice that he's getting everywhere, he's doing a lot of things, but he's just so consistent. You actively saw him not being part of the game. He really wasn't too injected. I personally noticed that he wasn't going up for a few marks. I don't know whether there's a bit of a ting or an injury going on there. And actually, Chatty mentioned on some radio program, I'm not sure which one this week, that going forward, they weren't going to be so defensive. So it sounded like at the stoppages, they were actually sitting back a bit, waiting for the Bombers to have, if not first touch the ball, because our rucks weren't going to be quite as strong. That's probably the plan there. They will kind of sit one shot, like slightly behind to try to get that second touch. And although minus 13 in clearances over the minus 34 in hitouts, that goes to show that what do you call it? That tactic in the mids did work, but you can't sustain that. Like, a good team will absolutely light you up if they were more efficient with the usage, which you pointed out there too, mate. The other thing that I noticed in that third quarter that we just drove and effectively won us the game, that they went out at halftime. I don't know what they got told, but they were told to just go straighter, go faster. And it just landed in the laps of our guys, didn't it? It was just like Lloydie, Cunners, Ollie, Blakey. They're all getting touches. They're all getting the ball moving, going straight up the middle. I don't imagine any team being dumb enough to do that, because we just lapped that up like it was nothing else. Look, uncontested possessions plus 40 for us, and marks were plus 19. That was us getting the ball, going forward, and just having a run with it, mate. So we held on, but I don't know what you see about it. I don't see, this is not a viable way to win a game, is the way I look at it, mate. How do you think?
Well, no, and I think that the prelim final last year showed us that, because then we went out the next game and got flogged against Geelong because we had no momentum for a quarter and a half. And effectively, the same thing happened today. I'm hoping that, that's not going to happen coming up this week, but just in general, as cliche as it is, got to play 4 quarters of footy. And, we played 3 very good quarters. Yeah, we lost the first by 1 point, but, kicked 5 goals, won. Not a bad, not a bad quarter by any means. So, yeah, look, it's not sustainable at all. And it's I think it's the inside part that's really killing us.
Yeah, mate, I agree with you. Like, and we really weren't able to put that pressure down. 56 tackles for the game, which is traditionally perfectly fine. It's a good run. A lot of teams would absolutely kill for something like that, but for us, we kind of are expecting a little bit more, especially when they're getting first touch at it. We are expecting to kind of get more touch on it, definitely more tackles going. Look, our average is at 65. That's been padded out by a couple of huge numbers, including some in the 90s. So 56 is a little bit beyond underneath that, and especially considering how much they got touch of the ball first. We should have done a bit more than that. So I want to say that the mids are aware. How about this? I got a suspicion that Rampy and McInerney were a bit sore well into probably the third, I'd say. When I noticed them, they were kind of easing up a bit. And of course, with Buddy out of the ground just into the second quarter, I think, from memory. I think we were quite lucky to run the clock out. I don't think it was another one of those situations like you mentioned against the Pies at home for the prelim last year. We got pretty lucky that the time stopped when it did, because they were on their way. Yeah,
100%.
All right, mate. Look, let's get straight into favourite moments and missed chances. Now that we've talked up and down the team, what did you see? What do you want to point out?
So I love Tommy McCartan's first quarter. I'll get into it a little bit more later. I think Amadi and Wicks in the first half were awesome, kicking 7 of our 10, which is they were just on fire. That's a great return for 2 players. So they were good. I just think quarters 1 to 3 we played really good footy. we did concede a little bit, but in terms of scoring, it was we were good. I thought we played decent footy.
Yeah, no, that's fair. That's pretty good. Like the way you said it, like 7 of the 10 goals there, kind of going their way. I heard on another Bombers podcast, I can't remember which one. I'm sorry for not having prepared this a little bit, but I did hear that they mentioned it, and it's a little bit of jealousy from their perspective of just like, if you shut down Buddy and you shut down Logan, you got these 2 other guys that just rock up and score goals, and I'm just like, you're right, like. It was the B stringers, if you will, the role players, the guys who are kind of they're keeping their job and they're doing well. They're in the 22, but they're not the star players. They light up, and they're the ones that kind of won it for us. And that's a pretty special way. We're going to talk about the players in a second, but guys like Cunners in his entire game, I thought was amazing. The last few weeks has been really good, but like last week, it wasn't necessarily the touches that he had; it's the quality of them and the amount of pressure that he was under. How clean he was with it, and he was working really well with some of the other defenders and mids there. So he kind of seemed like he came up a little bit as well, moved up a bit. And this one, mate, I know you appreciate Papley. You're a big fan of Papley, like we all are. How is he giving away a goal to Wixie? I have never seen that before, and that is not on my bingo card for any given game that we watch at the Swans, mate. Did you remember that?
I did. Yeah, it was our first goal or second goal?
I think that was Wixie's second, maybe.
Well, either way, it was one of our first goals, and it was good. Love to see it from Paps. So made effectively a sure thing of the goal, and that's what that's what we've got to do. We've got to get that team first mentality. So I loved it.
Yeah, look, what's that? I was saying the veteran players know how to get their other players into the game. So something like this, where you're going to hand off to one of the players that don't necessarily kick a lot of goals. Yeah, to give him an opportunity to kick a goal pretty early in the game and get him into it. That's veteran stuff. That's leadership stuff, and that's nice to see from Papley because we all know how much he enjoys goals. Hopefully, he can enjoy giving away just as many a la Buddy, which we'll talk about in a moment.
Yeah, I think in terms of missed chances as well. I wish Nick Wixie nailed that last shot in the fourth quarter, and I think Millsy's misses. They were really rushed. I feel like we had 2 shots, and I think one hit the post. Maybe not. But the other he just rushed, and he had more time, and he could have nailed it. And since the occasion, game 150, wasn't his best game, unfortunately, but he really could have capitalised with a couple of goals. So I think still the misses add up. So. If only we could have nailed one more of those and, had a little bit more breathing room. And, poor Annie, who I was with, wouldn't have had to put up with me freaking out. So thank you, Annie. Shout out to Annie.
That's awesome, mate. Yeah. I mean, hey, I guess that's a talking point in itself. Millsy's 150th. We were talking with Steve-O last week about how it's pretty random that he's at 150. Like, you feel like he was at 150 4 or 5 years ago. That's the kind of player he's been for us. He's been so veteran-like, so organised, so clear between their eyes. He's been so good. We haven't done so well in these milestone games of recent. So apart from the one we won for our old horse last week. So this was good. I liked it. Get around the captain and at least give him something to celebrate because it's pretty dire when we don't get up for a big milestone anyway. All right, mate, do you want to chuck it into the Bob Medal, which is the equivalent of the Bob Skilton Medal? I stuff that up every single week, so I'm going to make sure I get that super clear. We give 3 to 1 points out to the best Swans, and in this week, mate, what should we give them? What have we got to gift our number 1 player for the week?
Well, I think, what are we going to give them? I think, look, what do we got to give them? So, played the Bombers. Maybe we can give them a jet, just a nice little bomber jet.
All right, let me go talk to the accountants and see whether the Bob Medal has such budget. I dare say we don't, but
maybe I'll get them a replica then.
A little replica one, a Lego bomber for 3 points to Errol Goulden. Oh, Errol, and 2 points to Chatty, and 1 point to Harry Cunningham. So, mate, do you want to kick it off with Errol?
So Errol had 37 disposals at 86% efficiency, which was, so I guess the disposals was second best on ground, first for the Swans. 10 marks, which was best on ground. 4 tackles, which was equal second best on ground. Very strange. 6 clearances, which was third best on ground, first for the Swans. 9 inside 50s, best on ground. 725 metres gained, best on ground. 11 score involvements, equal best on ground. 2 goal assists, equal best on ground. 2 goal assists, equals second best on ground. 9 contested possessions, which was third for the Swans, and 1 beautiful goal. Also 24 kicks within that, 37 disposals at 86% efficiency.
Yeah, that's the real number. I'm just going to do a bit of quick math here. That didn't even work at all. But what I want to be seeing out of what we all wanted to be seeing out of Errol was for him to be using that delicious peg of his, and he has been doing so. And it seems like he's being able to kick more and more regularly for his touches, and like that kick that he laced out to Heaney, if you remember, and also the one that he put out in front of Amati. So there's 2 goals on his left peg, just slid in there, perfectly weighted to someone basically coming towards him. The defenders had no chance with either of those kicks. If you watch the Heaney kick, he was coming towards. It was a perfectly weighted kick straight to Heaney. Heaney had to do a pretty good job of picking it up with his legs. Then Amati was working super hard back and forth in around the square there, and he came forward at the right time, and again Errol just laced it in front of him. So those kicks are just so dangerous, and he continues to just astound us. Mate, he is on, and I haven't done the math, I'll crunch some numbers later, but he's got to be winning the Bob Skilton and the Bob medal at this stage. Do you agree, or do you reckon someone else has been hotter for longer at some point?
I think it would be, with all due respect to our other players, it would be a bit of a robbery if he didn't win it. Like, he has just been by far and away our best player this season. He's been so consistent. He's been amazing. But look, number 2 on the list, if he was fit for the whole season, who knows, because his impact is just nuts. So Chad had 26 touches at 77% efficiency, which was equal third for the Swans in terms of 26 disposals. He had 12 contested possessions, which was first for the Swans. 6 inside 50s, which was second for us. 584 metres gained, which was pretty much equal second, 4 metres difference for us, that is. And then 11 score involvements from 11 less touches, which was equal with Errol for equal best on ground, and 1 goal and 1 goal assist. So he was awesome too. 16 kicks in that. If he was fit for the whole season, who knows? He could rival them, because I think when those two just turn up every week. So they're great.
They're really interesting, are they? They're both very similar. They're not similar players. I was going ahead, but they're similar in the form that they've got a bit of mongrel about them. They've got nice kicks, and they're just so silky. Like, they've really got good usage of the ball. And in particular, Errol, we know how nice his touches are. But when those two are on the pitch, it's really, you're seeing some kids who are really doing a lot with the skills, like just pure skills, and in Errol in particular, and Braden in time will no doubt show a bit more of that. So we're pretty gifted in having some absolutely good ball users, because nothing frustrates me more than when I'm watching a game. Port Adelaide last year were just famous for this. We'd be watching a Port Adelaide game, and it'd be like, every single kick was a missed kick. Everything hit the ground. Every pass was missed. Every single mark hit someone in the chest and just bounced off them. Like, it's the most frustrating thing to see as a fan, and no doubt as a teammate, when you're doing everything you can and the other side's not really there. We've got some skillful players, mate, and I think this is really coming a long way for us. In Chatty, we don't need to talk too much about Chatty. Like, we love him. Errol, we know what Errol does, and we've got a bunch more we're going to talk about in a second. So, yeah, mate, 2 points for Chad. Well deserved. Mate, if you don't mind, I'm going to take Cunners.
Go for it. He's your boy.
He's my boy, Harry Cunningham, Mr. Dependable, 21 disposals at 86%, 10 contested possessions, second for the Swans, 10 contested possessions. That's not in his game. 10 intercepts, second for the ground, 6 rebound 50s, second on ground, and 4 tackles equal second on ground. So it is for Cunners, the last few weeks, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, has been absolutely superb. His touches have been dire, under a lot of pressure. He's not allowed to make a mistake. If you make a mistake as a half forward, defenders get it and they start looking for an out. If you make a mistake as a halfback, especially when you're playing deep halfback, you're going to get absolutely trounced and they're going to own you. So his touches are going to be sweet. Between him and Lloydie, they were superb. Unfortunately for Lloydie, Cunners just gets a little bit up, and not so much because of he played. His stats aren't quite as good in some certain sections as Lloydie, which we'll get into in a moment. But it's just the quality of those touches when you watch the game back, which is so nice that we had to give him the 1 point. So, yeah, that's for Cunningham. What do you want to say about him, mate? I'll pass it over to you.
I think given last season he fell out of the 22, he's done a great job getting back in. Especially with Robbie Fox's grand final performance, he's dislodged him from the team. His game on Charlie Cameron earlier this season against Brisbane, up in Brisbane, was amazing. Yeah. I'm glad that we moved him to half back rather than keeping him up forward. Look, he's been great. Good on him for turning everything around and getting back in the team. He's a fighter and he's just such a good clubman too.
Yeah, bang on, mate. You've nailed it there. Mate, that's the 3-2-1. Errol, Chad, and Cunningham. Mr. Harry, what about the honourable mentions? Who do you want to pick up to give everyone a shout?
Well, we had a lot of these, so we'll start with Lloydie. So he was pretty unlucky not to get in. So 31 touches at 87% efficiency, 7 score involvements in that, which is effectively a bit over 1 in 4 touches leading to a score, which from the back half in a game where we were getting, with 69 inside 50s against, to get 7 score involvements is pretty amazing. 9 rebound 50s, so effectively 1/7 of the Swans' rebound 50s, or actually less because they would have kicked goals in there. Like a lot of rebound 50s. That was best on ground. And then 4 tackles as well, equal second best on ground. 588 metres gained, which was second best on ground too.
Yeah, Lloydie's unlucky to not get himself a point, but I guess with some of Lloydie's touches, he manages to get easy touches and working around the ground. It's very hard for us to comment on that, right? Because getting easy touches isn't easy. He's got to find space. He's got to be in the right place at the right time. He's got to be calling out to his colleagues. He's got to be, making sure that he's, all ready to rebound or position. So he's probably working super hard that we maybe not appreciating as much for those 31 disposals. But
100%. But I think the difference there between Harry's 21 and Lloydie's 31 is that Harry's getting it on the contest, which is something we've been clearly struggling with, and then also 10 intercepts. So it's coming from the Bombers players when he's getting it. So there's the difference there.
Yep. So I agree with you for sure. Yeah. Yeah, that's it. That's bang on, mate. That's perfect. Mate, I'm going to pick up Wixie. Love Wixie. He's been the whipping boy many times in the last few years. But to see him get a few up is pretty nice. So we got 3 goals for Wixie and 1 behind. 3 goal assists, 5 tackles, and which I think was best on ground.
Best on ground, correct.
Yep, for 5 tackles and 86% efficiency. Effective. Was it?
So he had
of the game.
10 forward half possessions, and he had 86% efficiency for the game and 8 score involvements. So from 14 touches to have 10 in the forward half and have 86% efficiency and 8 score involvements, it's so efficient.
Yeah. So that's 8 of the 14 touches led to some score. That's mad, mate.
And 10 of them in the forward half too.
Yeah. And not to mention all the tackles and the pressure that he puts on as well.
100%.
Yeah, big for Wixie. And again, like I said at the beginning, when you got players that are kind of, I wouldn't say Wicks is on the fringe. Horses for a long time said that Wicks is in the best 6 forwards in the team, that he's always going to get picked, try to make sure that the pressure is released off Wixie. But then to see him like get a free goal of Papley, to see him put on all that pressure and all the touches and all the stats that we mentioned there. Yeah, very happy. Maybe this is the beginning of a wonderful thing we see over there with our small pressure forward that gets no love typically any other given day, which they just dare to do a job. Mate, what about you? What else do you have? Who else do you want to pick up?
Well, one thing before we go off Wixie, I think that since he's come into the team, we've just looked so much better as a pressure team.
100%, yeah.
I really like him. I don't want to see him drop out of the team. I've actually got a little bit of a theory of what I think we should do come trade time. We'll talk about that later, but yeah, I want to see Wixie stay in this team. I want to take Tommy McCartan. Pretty much his first quarter this is what I want to talk about, because he was just everywhere. 9 touches, 3 marks, 4 intercept possessions. I know one of them was a contested mark in that too, and there wasn't too many contested marks for the game. And then I think he had 17 1-percenters as well. So he was just really good, and it was probably the first time since he was out that we've seen Tommy McCartan play so well for, even if he played well for the game, but he played out of his skin that first quarter. So it was really good to see him back fully fit and firing.
Yeah, he started to look at himself, didn't he? I saw him in the first quarter, maybe just with 5 minutes to go in the first, that he was running behind Peter Wright and seemed to hold up a bit and grab his right hammy. And I'm like, oh God, no, please, for the love of God. We cannot afford any defenders to be out. Granted, we're missing out on Rampy next week. We'll talk about it in a moment. But he just kind of came good. Got the old spray out, figured it out, and he was just back to normal again. So yeah, Tommy Mac, he's still finding his form. We know how good he can be, and he's not quite 100% there yet, which is hilarious considering how good he has been recently. So we still got a lot ahead of us for old Tommy Mac, mate. So that's a good pickup. I'm going to quickly pick up Amati. Look, 4 goals all in the first half. That's great. I mean, one of the things that I really wanted to see from him, and I've actually mentioned this a few times on different episodes, was there's no doubt that he can take a good mark. There's no doubt that he's quite physical. There's no doubt on his size. What I always didn't see was some follow-up work, or the effort it takes to get into space. And he kind of relied on his contested mark being so strong, and that works in the VFL. And we've proven that works in the VFL because he's been dominant in the AFL whenever he's been there. When he came up to AFL though, struggled a bit and definitely couldn't get to the end of the game. And what I saw from that was just a lack of being able to move as much as he needs to against, proper AFL fit defenders. Different story this week. He was moving everywhere. He was running left and right, back and forth. He had 3 or 4 attempts at that goal that he had, maybe his second goal, the one that Errol laced out to him. There was about 4 attempts towards Errol to make sure that something was moving left and right, back and forth. And it paid off, and that's ended up getting a goal. And that's what you're going to need to do when you're playing against AFL level defensemen. So good stuff for Amati. Love to see it. It's timely given what's happening. So let's hope that we see a lot more of that going forward, mate. Anything on Amati, or do you want to move on to someone else?
Oh, I think we've got. We'll go to Braden next, but then there's a few others that all have played solid games that I think deserve a mention too. Yep. So Braden had 26. At 77%. He had 8 contested possessions, which was 4th best for the Swannies. 5 rebound 50s, which was equal third best on ground. 535 metres gained, 4th best on ground. Look, it's really good to see him. He had a bit of a slow start. It would have been pretty hard to watch, for him, not in a way to indict his personality at all, but just in terms of, human nature. It would have been really hard to see his best mate come in and absolutely tear it up while he struggled to get into the team. And, this season, kind of like Harry, he's fought his way in, he's become a mainstay, and, his importance grows by the week. So well done to Braden. And then I also just want to mention, Paps with, 2 goals, around 20 touches. Heaney with, I think, 2 goals and 17 touches. Juzzy a goal and 20. Blakey had, I think, somewhere between 19 and 21. Ollie had 21. Rowie had 19. They were all solid games too. Nothing, that would get votes, but it just shows that it was a really good team performance.
Yeah, 100%. And Rowie there, another 5 tackles, best on ground.
True.
Best on ground. His averages have been closer to 8, so to see him not quite get there says a little bit about what's going on in the midfield. But yeah, mate, those are all fantastic shouts. That's really, really good stuff. All right, mate, anything you want to mention about the game before we go into the post-game standing and ladder?
I don't know. Thank God we won. Look, I think we'll leave it there. Let's go. Let's keep moving. Yeah.
All right, mate. Let's go into the post game. So, what does that mean? That win was imperative in order to keep our finals chances alive. We are now in 10th place at the same points as the Cats and right behind them on percentage. Ironically, that percentage that they gained is probably from the game that we played against them in round 7. Anyway, we'll get onto that later. That means 3 wins on the trot for us, and we have the following teams to play. We have GWS away. That's Giants away. We have Gold Coast at home, Adelaide away, and the D's at home. So we've got a couple of teams in the lower half of the ladder. GWS, that we know how good they have been recently. We'll get into that in a bit more. And the D's, who we know are very, very good, who's starting to find some form, starting to find some positioning, especially in the forward half. And they're going to be dangerous. So we need to probably win 3 of those 4 in order to secure ourselves a spot in the finals. So a really tough gig ahead of us. Mate, do you want to mention anything there?
Well, look, it's effectively in our hands. If we can win 4 out of 4, then we'll get through. But, I think it's just one game at a time, to be honest. We've just got to focus on the next game. We've got to try win that, and we've just got to keep moving in that direction. So, yeah.
Look, the teams ahead of us, this is an interesting thing. So the teams ahead of us are Geelong, Bulldogs, and Carlton, and GWS. All right, but if we focus on those top 3 ahead of us, so Geelong, Bulldogs, and Carlton, they've got themselves, they're basically playing each other. And so that inside is just going to churn itself. So to your point, either way, whatever happens, say just the Bulldogs lose against the Cats, right? The Cats lose against the Saints or the Power or the Pies. The whole bottom half of that ladder is going to churn itself. And this is going to make it quite an interesting ending to the season for some teams. We just have to win. As you said, we just need to win these games. We can't leave it up to any other chances. If we win these 4 games, the chances are, or 3 of the 4, the chances are we get ourselves in. Otherwise, we're basically going to be dependent on exclusively other results, and that's not a fun place to be, and we don't want to do that. So ahead of the Cats, who are right in front of us, we've got Power, who are good, although haven't played well the last few weeks. The Pies, who are very good, although got shown up about how to beat them by the Blues. Saints, who are dropping like a stone. And the Doggies, who are hot and cold day in, day out. The Doggies themselves have the Tigers, who can beat anyone on the ladder any given day, which they're quite an interesting team. The Hawks, who not been great. The Eagles, who are terrible. And the Cats, who we've just talked about. So Richmond is right behind us in the same points at a different percentage. And so we've got 3 teams, the Cats, the Swannies, and Richmond, all in the same points, different but by percentage, and it's going to be an absolute red hot crack all the way to finals. Mate, predictions. Do you want to give any? Do you want to give anything?
Never, ever.
Ever, ever.
I said it on the news. I don't have to say it again.
All right, good.
No predictions. Let's focus one game at a time. All of these games are tricky games. There's none of these games are easy. Let's focus on GWS away with the outs that we have, and focus on that game and then see how we go.
Fair enough, mate. Fair enough. Look, let's get into the next game ahead. We've got ourselves the little brothers, little sisters over there at GWS this Saturday night at Homebush. Mate, do you want to talk about the injuries that we copped in this last game?
Yeah, so it looks like Rampy's, I think it's confirmed, Rampy's going to be out, Juzzy's going to be out, and unfortunately, Buddy's going to be out. So I guess, who to bring in, I sort of had a look. I think we got to bring ABF in, anyone but Francis. So hopefully that's, Will Gould, or, maybe we can play Laddams down back, or, what Noddy's suggesting in, playing McLean down back. We could even bring in, another small forward in Costanzi. Maybe he could do a good job on a key forward, because we know Francis won't. And then I think Stevens has got to come in for Juzzy. I think that, look, this is, it's make or break for him. There's a lot of trade rumours. And, I think he's still been in decent form in the VFL. He's got to come in and have a crack, and, hopefully he plays well. At a bare minimum, it's going to hopefully bring his value up if we do decide to trade him, or if not, maybe it gives him another year with us, because he still was in good form at the end of last year, and, it'd be a shame to lose him, and then he does fulfill that potential that he obviously showed at youth level. So I think he's got to come in, especially this time of the year. He has the experience. And then I think, especially based on how we've been performing in the middle, it's got to be Hickey or Laddams that come in. Hickey had a blinder of a game, and Laddams was in pretty good form, albeit inconsistent, pretty good form earlier in the year. And then I guess probably Matty Roberts or Chad Jr. As the sub. So yeah.
Yeah, look, on that, like Hickey versus Laddams conversation, the more that Laddams played, the better he got throughout the earlier part of the season. Of course, he was only there because we lost Hickey pretty early. And then when Hickey came in, I think they played one game together before Laddams got injured. And then that actually showed to be like there's some potential there. There's a lot of potential between those two players playing. Laddams is actually not a bad little forward, so he's got the craft. So it's a really hard one to gift, mate. Like, who would you be preferring to sit in the middle? Let's not say necessarily going forward, but for this game this week coming up.
I think we've got to go with Hickey.
Yeah.
I think he's got the runs on the board. He's got the, consistency over years on the board. He had a bigger game last week. He was playing in the ruck last week. We don't really need another key forward, which Laddams, if we did, Laddams would be, better for that. If it was, let's say, if Hickey was in the team and we lost Buddy, or let's say Buddy was already out and we lost McLean, then that would be the time for Laddams to come in. But I think we've got to go with Hickey there. So I think we've got to back him in. His first couple of years with us were awesome. So obviously it's been a bit up and down, since the grand final, but or inclusive of the grand final. So I would say that he comes in.
Yeah, I'm not against that. I think I kind of see it. I kind of see it as being a little bit like he has to be the one who wants to tell us. He's got to be the one to put his hand up. Is he healthy enough? Only he knows, right? We've seen him on the ground when he's not quite been himself, when he's not quite been at full health, and he just doesn't have the capacity to get around. And I'm not suggesting that he's a liability. I think any ruckman who can't get around too well is a liability, but he's just, when he's not himself, I would much rather have Laddams in. So I think it just needs to be a genuine conversation with Hickey. Like, are you good to go? Like, is your body good? Are you rested? What do you need from your body? What do you need from us, the Swans, from PT, in order to get good enough to play this game and be at your best? And just maybe phrase it to him like, we need one game out of you. We're going to take one game at a time. Just like, how good can you get at this game? And then reassess it from there, because Laddams, I don't think, is a bad shout to throw in, but I agree with you. I think Hickey's probably the better one to go with, mate. That'd be my go. On the smaller side, so on the Robertson Corey you mentioned, I'm a massive fan of Roberts. So I would be inclined to put him in straight away. I felt that he had maturity from the day he stepped in, and he only got better and better. So do you feel any strong ways, one way or another, between Roberts and Corey?
I'd probably go Roberts. It's a bit tricky because he has had, I guess, a much more injury interrupted season. But in saying that, with all due respect to Chad Jr., he has had a game or a couple of games even where he really did step up, and he did show that maturity. Whereas Corey, I guess, is still finding his feet, at AFL level, and good on him, and I hope to continue to see him. But I would probably go with Roberts as well. Just on last week too, Hickey had 25 disposals, 27 hitouts, 5 tackles, and 11 clearances. Stevens had 32 touches with 7 clearances and a goal. And Matty Roberts had 30 disposals and 5 clearances. Corey had 10 tackles with 27. Will Gould kicked 3 goals, and so did the Hyphen, 25 and 3, and Jack Buller kicked 4. So we actually had a lot of reserve players in form, and I guess Jack Buller could also come in potentially and replace Rampy down back. There's a lot of options we have.
Harry Arnold, do you think?
Oh, Harry Arnold. Oh, fantastic. That's what we brought him in for. Francis probably hasn't played a game since we brought Harry Arnold in, so fantastic. Let's give him a crack. All
right, that's it. Look, we're going to talk about Aaron Francis. So for the listeners out there, let's start with Superfan Swan. Swan Superfan Sam, the Swandant. Not a big fan of Aaron Francis. If you listen to any episode prior to this, you would gauge pretty quickly that he really does not like the way that Aaron Francis goes about it. I, on the other hand, and my cat's yelling at me because she wants to go outside.
No, she's saying, "What are you, Chris? Stop!"
She's like, "Stop it! You're embarrassing yourself." No, well, I'm not saying that I'm a massive fan of Aaron Francis, but I see that he's definitely got potential. So I am actually in the camp where if I'm not insane either, Melican's better. So if Melican was available, we'd be taking Melican. But
thank God we can agree on one thing in
for sure.
In this conversation.
Melican one-on-one is excellent. His speed is great. He's
up to Pelican.
Up to Pelly. Who can? Melly can, except for stay healthy. But he's definitely much sharper in a lot of different ways. But what I see out of Aaron Francis, I'm actually quite excited. So I think he needs another season. I definitely don't think he was at full fitness. The Bombers do not have that level of fitness that the Swans do. Arguably, not many clubs have that level of fitness that's expected of you going into the season as the Swans do. We expected to come in running a lot. And I don't think Aaron was quite there. But so they play him up forward. He's getting around, and he's too good for VFL. I still see him being a very, very, very viable option going forward. And look, even the limited games that he has had, he's up there in a fair few touches, in one-on-ones. There's many stats we can throw around, and we can do that maybe in some other forms. But he's not a terrible player. He's just not quite there yet. And I think for next year, when we definitely are going to be leaning on some of the depth a bit more, I'm quietly excited about Francis, and I'm going to put it out to everyone right now, including you, Sammy Boy, that I expect you to be eating your words halfway through next season.
over to you for the retort. While I let my cat out 1 second.
Look, honestly, I just hope he's not on the list next season and there's no opportunity there. I don't even want to say anything bad. I've said my piece, to be honest. So, look, I hope he does turn it around and make me eat my words. I'd just prefer it not being a crunch game where the season's on the line. Not him playing well, just him getting that opportunity, because I don't back him to come in and play a way that that's going to win us the game. So as I said, Chris, I'm not sure if you heard that. I hope he does make me eat my words if he stays on the season. So it stays on the list next season. But I don't want him to come in for a crunch game where if we lose, it's almost curtains. So yeah, but I don't want to say anything too bad about him. I'm sure he's a nice person, and I'm sure he can play in the VFL, and hopefully another club sees that and picks him up, or he can be maybe win the is it the JJ Liston Trophy in the VFL as the best VFL player, whatever. I hope he has a great career. I just don't want it on the Swans best 22 or 23.
Yeah, fair enough. You should be a politician, because what we hear, the battles that not battles, but what we've spoken about off air, obviously compared to here, is obviously very different. But I appreciate what you're saying there. So we miss out Rampy this week. Who do we see filling in that spot? I think do we both agree that Will Gould is not that guy, or is that the question?
Look, I mean, I don't think he's the most hyped player who never played a game ever. The amount of comments on pages saying get Gould in. Look, I mean, I feel for him, because I would like to see him do well, as I would like to see 99% of Swans players do well, or really all of them, but just some of them I don't think can. Look, I wouldn't want him coming in. It is a tricky one, because it's hard to say I'd want to see Arnold debuting in this game as well, because it's a big game. I mean, I would be an awesome story though. So Harry Arnold coming in, as a mid-season player, potentially, I would honestly prefer to see that than Francis coming in. But it actually is a really tricky one. I wish Milliken was back and he could come in and take that spot. But I mean, how tall will the Giants be playing? Because we're going to have Tommy, we're going to have Robbie Fox, who can play taller. Blakey has done a good job earlier in the year playing tall. Mm-hmm. Let me just have a quick look and see how many talls the Giants had.
That's a good shout, because
last
really
game, because there's no point bringing in Francis if they don't have the tools. So Toby Green, I think Robbie Fox could be a good matchup there. They've got so in the forward line they've got Toby Bedford, who's a small. Himmelberg is predominantly playing down back now. So then Cadman, was subbed off with 3 touches. Where's Jesse Hogan? Was he playing? Jake Riccardi kicked 3 goals, 1. Was Jesse Hogan in? So look, Jesse Hogan doesn't look like he was in last week.
Was he not in? That's surprising.
So
me.
they're not playing that tall, and I think that Blakey, Tommy McCartan. And, Blakey, Tommy McCartan, and Robbie Fox,
should be enough, you reckon,
could be enough. If they bring Hogan in, maybe we could bring in Arnold to play on Cadman, and not saying that, I'm just, he's a young player, probably doesn't have, he's not bulked up yet. It could be, a good game to bring Harry Arnold into the fold. So
no, you can't blood a guy with 4 weeks to go against the GWS who know they play dirty and they get under the skin of the younger players in particular. Like, I reckon. Well, if we need a tour, I'm going to go with Aaron Francis, no question about it. But of course, that's not necessarily what we need to do, right? If we're going to go smaller, then you can even. All right, here's the question: Toby Green, the guy who can win any game any given day, right? Probably the ultimate X factor in the competition right now. I think we had Ollie Florent on him last time, and he did a pretty decent job, or not perfect.
you'd probably be looking at maybe Cunningham, maybe Foxy. What would you say there? Like you mentioned Foxy. I reckon maybe Cunningham. Ollie's already done a decent job on him. They're basically just chasing him around, right? Like just wherever he goes, you got to be sticking to him like glue. He's just so sneaky. He can get a goal out of nothing, though. That's the hard part.
I mean, could we go a fourth option? Very left of field. Maybe bring Ryan Clark into the 22 and just chuck Clarkey on him.
Clarkey can run all day, but does he have the strength to sit on him? Like I can understand why Clarkey's so good at day cross.
It's just in terms of if he could shut him out, that would be awesome. But no, look, I think look, it probably Harry would be a good matchup, especially after how he did on Charlie Cameron earlier in the year. We do have options. At times we probably need to double team him as well. So, look, it's going to be a tricky matchup.
Like that guy's annoying as hell. Like, doesn't matter where like the game he played against us this year, where he effectively won the game with that damn kick. You know where he is. You know what they're going for. You know what he's going to try to do, and you still can't touch it. That's how freaking good he is. He just does my absolute head in. The other players that they have, the other danger spot that GWS have is their whole defensive line is probably the best in the game right now. They are red hot, and they're actively winning them games. They are that good. Sam Taylor is not going to have to sit on Buddy, and we're going to talk about Buddy in a moment, right? So calm down, everyone. We'll get there. We've got Sam Taylor's going to be sitting on either Amati or Logan or McLean, and that just leaves. You're talking about without question, the center fullback for the AA team is going to be Sam Taylor, and he's going to be sitting on one of our young guys, Amati, Logan, or McLean. That's not going to be good for any of them, and he's just going to waltz over to whoever is probably more dangerous at the time or whoever's having to be a bit higher. That's going to be tough for us. Scoring goals is going to be very tough, and I think we're going to need to get them from some of these half forwards, your Papleys. I'm going to need to do more. Your Heaney's going to have to do more. You're going to need to see some more out of Parker, out of Warner. You're going to need to see some more crummy goals, more things out of contest, stoppages, because we're not going to be able to just bomb it on people's heads and expect that some of these kids are going to be able to do a whole lot with it, because they've got some quality defenders on them.
It's not just those three. Sorry, it's not just Sam Taylor as well. Like Harry Himmelberg rebounding out of defence is an asset that they have. Nick Haynes, I'm not sure if he was all Australian one year, but he's when he's in form, and I don't think he's been in form for or in consistent form for a while, but he's also a really dangerous defender in terms of it's not just a shutdown, it's the rebound from their possessions. So they do have some good intercept defenders who also have a lot more experience than our three talls. So it is a really good point you make.
Yeah, no, it's going to be a freaking tough one. So I guess it gets to the point of how do we get a win out of this? What do we do? What do we need to do, Sammy, in your eyes, to get a win out of this game?
Well, I think what we did against Essendon in terms of the pressure was really good. So we need to keep that pressure going. We need to get the ball on the outside, and we need to control the possession. We need to kick accurately. We need to be efficient, because that's our game right now. And I don't think that it's it's a premiership winning game plan. Who knows? I hope it is, or maybe we can tweak it. But at the moment, I think it is a plan. It's a game plan that keeps us in games, and we are doing well. To hang in there. It hasn't been our best season, and like if we can be efficient, get it in. I think the other thing is we need Parker and Millsy to stand up in the middle. Chad and Errol have been doing it all year, and Parker and Millsy have had their games, and Rowy's also been standing up, especially defensively with the tackling. But we just need more from really all five of them. If they're the five that we roll with through the midfield, which generally they are, we just need them to stand up, win the contest, win the clearances. and, be first to it, and create more repeat stoppages and just go again. We need that. And, we spoke earlier in the season, Noddy and I, about, bringing Matt Crouch in, and the way he's been playing for Adelaide since he's come back in. I think I really want to get him in.
Yeah. That kind of player, definitely something that we need. Yeah, look, strength, pressure, efficiency. Our efficiency has been super, super tidy. It's going to take an absolute hit this week with just the general defense. So that's going to be interesting to how we go. And so we're going to have to just need more grunt work, more stoppages. Similar to what we did against the Dogs, that kind of game plan I think would be good to go. And we're just going to need to keep that together. Look, the other danger player that I would throw out there would be Toby Bedford. He is a absolute pressure monster. He does not stop. He's the kind of person that's gonna just be within just reach of someone and they have to rush that kick, and he doesn't get the accolades, and he's just a little bit good, So he's someone that I'd like to see whether he matches up on someone. If someone gets red hot, like a Chatty or an Errol, whether he gets told to just sit on him and just null them, which wouldn't surprise me too much considering teams have been letting Errol go the last few weeks and he's been making them pay. So I can only assume that that's going to be something that teams are going to start trying to lock down anyway. All right, look, just like this is typical, by the way, of how it looks like at the beginning of the season. You talk a lot about the game that happened. You're talking about the review. And as the season goes on, as it gets closer to the finals, you start talking about the game that is about to come. And so doing a bit of 50-50 is about normal at this point of year. Let's kick into one last thing. We've got something quite important to mention, everyone, if you haven't already heard. Buddy Franklin has sustained a calf. We sustained 3 calf injuries on the weekend. And Buddy Franklin, of course, is one of them. Was mentioned that it was going to take him anywhere between 6 and 10 weeks for the injury to subside. And so he decided to call it a career. After 19 seasons, 1,066 goals from the top of my head. I'm sure that's right. And many, many good moments, memories, and a highlights reel that will make anyone blush. Doesn't matter who it is or what sport they play. Mate, Sam, what do you want to say? I'll give it over to you to just give your emotions out, mate. What's going through your mind?
I think firstly 2 words, or we can go 3 words. Thank you, buddy. Yeah. People say he hasn't been a success because we didn't win a flag. Well, we made 3 grand finals, and I'm pretty confident that in that time, the only other team that would have made 3 grand finals would have been Richmond, who obviously had a better hit rate than we did. But I don't think any other team made 3 grannies. There would be quite a few that made 2, but we made 3. We missed finals twice, and he didn't play one of those seasons, and he only played 10 games in the other. So all the other seasons, he was our leading goal kicker, bar this year. He couldn't really have done anything more. Super player. We are so lucky that we got him. He was supposed to go to the Giants. I just remember when my ex-stepdad, Joe, he was my stepdad at the time, and he called me. He's like, "We got Buddy." And I was like, "What do you mean?" He's like, no, we got Buddy. I just couldn't believe him. So that's that's the overarching thing. Thank you so much. You've been a success. You've brought so many more fans to the Swans. You've given us so many highs. You've been amazing. Honestly, I was starting to get to the opinion that I wanted to keep him on the list. You'd have to take a severe pay cut and just start his preseason in round 12 if we were doing well, and have him. If he could have been redrafted to us in the mid-season, I would have said to do that. But unfortunately, you can't redraft a player that you delisted or that retired to the same club. So that wouldn't have been an option. That's why I would have kept it on the list. But the way he was playing the last few weeks were awesome, and it's such a disservice that Buddy didn't get a farewell. I don't know if he's, crazily enough, I don't know if he's even that kind of player that would need one. I think he's probably quite to himself in a sense and doesn't love the limelight. Part of the reason he would have moved to Sydney. But he's great, and it is a shame. One thing I am really happy about though, is that he finished with an average of over 3 goals. 3.01 goals, because if he did keep playing, it would have dropped below 3. So that's one thing that I am really happy about, that he maintained that average. But yeah, look, it's really, it is really sad, but also you've got to look back and look at all the amazing moments he gave us, all the final series he gave us. If you want to look at it from a business perspective, all the bums on seats, all the revenue he would have brought to this club, like, we may not have won a flag, but like we won with him.
Yeah, that's really well said, mate. That's what's that old saying? Don't be sad it ended, be happy it happened.
Yeah.
That's basically where I'm at trying to cope with this. It's actually quite emotional to think that we're not going to ever see him play again. I mean, how lucky were we to watch him, every home game in person anyway, and for you, a lot of other games, away games, given you went to so many away games, pretty much all of them. It's just wild that we got to see him play for our team for as long as we did, and he didn't disappoint, man. Like, from the first week he was there, he was on fire, We'll talk about some of our favorite moments in a second, but it's just, it's really hard to cope with the fact that we may never have him or anyone like him at the game ever again. And in my eyes, and I know there's been a few things out there, there was a mob called, I think it was called Inside Track or something, did an era-adjusted most goals scored and found him to be top of the ladder. Now, it's all very numbers-based, and you can fudge numbers. We all know that. Anyone who knows statistics, you can fudge it away. But what there's no question about is that he's 4th of all time. He's clearly the best modern forward of all time, of our era, and there's no one even remotely close. Buddy scored 1,066 goals. Directly underneath him of his peers is Nick Revolt with, I think it was 780 something. Right, Nick's still playing, so he might get a bit up, but let's just round it up to just about 800. Like, that's 260 odd goals that he didn't get on top of Buddy. So like, Buddy, it's just wild, man. Sorry, 300 and something goals to go on Buddy. No, 200 something goals for Buddy. So I just, it's hard for everyone. We all have to deal with this. We have to move on with it. We're gonna have to find some ways to plug in holes in the team as well as our emotions and everything, but just be happy that we got to watch him, because those last 10 years have gone much faster than I ever expected. I didn't expect those years to go so fast. 10 years went very, very quick, and I wish we went back to the beginning because it was quite special. Mate, tell me, what's your favorite Buddy moment?
So it's gotta be round. I think it was round 13 in 2014 against Port Adelaide, and in that game, I'm fairly confident he didn't do much in the first half. I haven't actually looked this up. I did rewatch some Buddy highlights today before the podcast, but I haven't looked at the game. I don't even know how I would be able to work that out. I'm sure there would be a way to work it out, but I'm fairly confident that he didn't kick a goal in the first half, and he came out and it was like, I think it was like quite late on in the third, he kicked 2, and it was a very close game, and then in the last quarter he just went crazy. And I think if he kicked 5, he either kicked 1 in the third late or 2 in the third late, and then 4 in the last or 3 in the last. I can't remember, but the goals, like the one from 70 out, the give him a longer contract from Anthony Hudson, and the one where he gets it on that like right flank and sort of does that Buddy kind of step to get around someone, runs through 2 defenders and kicks it on the left foot, from probably 55 out, which ended up being the match winner. Like, it was just amazing. I was sitting there with 3 of my Brazilian friends. It was probably their first game at the footy. Shout out to Lisa, Gabby, and Yana. Miss you guys. Soldagis, and they were there, and like the crowd was just going off. There was a Port Adelaide fan close to me. I wasn't sitting in the normal spot. I was sitting with them. And he or she, I can't even remember, was just like, when they scored, they were looking at me and kind of screaming at me, and when we scored, I was screaming at them. And I believe in good karma at the footy. I don't like to, rile people up or get in people's faces, but when that final siren went, I sang our song in the face of that Port Adelaide fan. But yeah, no, Buddy in that second half was just nuts. I mean, there, you can say how he played against the Giants. You can say how he played. He kicked 10 against the Blues. I think he kicked 9 against the Saints in a milestone game, and he should have kicked 10, but he didn't. His 300th game was one of my favourites. I think he kicked quite a few in that game too, probably 4 or 5. That was the Kizza and Macca farewell.
Oh, special.
Yeah, so, there's so many moments, that goal against Adelaide, the one on the run that he replicated the 2 from Hawthorn earlier in his career. So, but, the other thing as well is there's all these highlights, but there's also so many non-highlights of him just going back and kicking goals as well, and how important all those regular goals were for us. So, but for me, the highlight was the Port Adelaide game. That second half, or even last quarter. I wish I could remember it more clearly, but I do remember the goals very clearly, and I was at the right end for it. So,
mate, yeah. I've got 2 in particular that I remember that it's never. I mean, I think we take the 1,000 goals night as a standard. That was wild. That was mad. That was amazing. There's nothing ever in sport that I think I will ever appreciate that was as good as that outside of winning a GF. So
I was just about to say 2012 grand final.
So 2012, yeah, it just that was just out of nowhere. Just ended up being the most amazing, and just the feeling in the stands every time that he touched it, every goal that he got, and everyone's just, you can just feel the buzz and feel everyone slowly inching closer and closer down to the ground there to try to get onto the ground. And by the time he kicked 3, we're all like, that's it, and everyone just ran down to the bottom. We're all sitting there talking amongst each other, and good on the fans that were typically had their seats there. They knew that what was up, and they were getting on with it. That was just phenomenal. I lost a shoe. I lost my hat. It was all happening. Everyone was super nice. Got close to him. Got some photos. Had a great time. I got Nana's ashes in my mouth. That lady who decided to drop Nana's ashes in the middle of the SCG, all for it. It was awesome. That was superb. Nothing's ever going to be better than that in my memory up until now. That was pretty sweet. What happened at the SCG? The other one was the first game in Perth against West Coast when they open up Optus Stadium or Perth Stadium, whatever you want to call it. And then he decides to go over there and kick 8 on them while it was Nick Nat's first game back after sitting out, pretty much 2 years out. And it was the first opening of the stadium, and a fantastic stadium that he is. And he's decided to just put an absolute dampener on him and kick 8 on him. It was just nuts. He was just unstoppable. It was one of those moments where there's nothing you could do. The ball's on the ground, he's going to get it. The ball's up in the air, he's going to get it. If you're going to match him up with whoever it was, they just weren't good enough. And it was just awesome. He was just hungry as hell. I've never seen a man so hungry ever. That was incredibly special for me. The other one that comes to memory was 2017, the Coleman Medal. It was between him and Josh Kennedy from West Coast. We're battling each other. And I think from memory, he needed 6, from the game in order to take over Kennedy or something like that. I think he needed 6 or 8, some random number. And he goes out there against the Blues and kicks 10. He kicks 10 against the Blues. And then I think Kennedy only kicks 2 or 3, and he ends up winning the Coleman by 5. Like, again, nothing could stop him. And I remember us chanting, we're just so happy, and we're drunk, and we're just happy and just screaming and just chanting, and had these songs going on like kick it to Buddy, kick, and just every single time Zachy Jones or whoever had it, we just go straight to Buddy, and Buddy was lapping it up, and they end up kicking 10 on him, and that was just the guy's a showman, the greatest showman, as you mentioned. There's a fantastic. Who was it? Hutto?
That was Hutto as well. That was I'm pretty sure that was the goal against the Giants where he pushed. It was late in the last quarter. I think we were up by it was less than a goal, and he just palms off a player and kicks it from 70
from the
out.
box.
Oh yeah, no.
Yeah, the greatest showman that's never going to be stopped.
It's quite amazing the calls that Hutto's had on Buddy.
Yeah.
That's a good combination in itself. 13 as well. That game. So that was Hutto. So they've got a good connection, those two, I'm sure.
That's a good way to say it, mate. So I don't know, I feel empty, but there's a game on this weekend and we're going to get through it. It's ironic that it's against GWS as well, considering he was meant to head over there first off. So, mate, any last things you want to say before we wrap this up?
No, but I love how we didn't cross over each other's stories. That was good.
Well, that brings us to the end of the episode. So thank you very much for listening in. We really do appreciate it. Make sure you get all your Swannies news out there. Like and subscribe to anything that we're doing. But we'll see you at Giant Stadium at Homebush come this weekend. Until then, up the bloods and can you Swannies?